Hello, everybody. Welcome, you Nelmers. Boy, a brand new year. And by the way, this is going to be your best year on Earth. Well, you probably know that, but I just reminded you of that. Your best year on Earth. I'm Dr. Randall the bounce back blind guy. And uh, Patrick.
And the other guy. And I'm the other guy.
Yeah. Wonderful things have gone on since we've started New Enlightened Lifestyle Medicine, and one is that because of Patrick Herbert and how I met him on my radio show, Be the Change. It's on the Pyramid One Network, but there was not an energy attraction, and I would say a law of attraction that everyone knows of, and there are about 10 other God laws out there that I refer to, but law of attraction. And what Patrick has done to the show, which has really expanded it, is that true researcher, true journalist, gets truth and reports it. And he himself underwent an enlightenment. And then we can probably have an entire show or many shows over that. But what that did for him is showed him what real truth was. And now he lives his life that way based on unconditional love. And you think, wow, that's woo-woo and that's not scientific, but I will argue against that. It is not woo-woo, and it is scientific, and it is truth. And today's show is based on truth and the evolution of that truth, and especially with, we talked about genetics and the epigenetics and the microbiome, and all of you know about that with the Human Genome Project and the Human Microbiome Project that has just recently finished. So we're gonna jump into that, and here I'll start off with some statistics. And yeah, this show is telling you that we are all miracles, that we are all meant for healing, that we are all meant for growth and better things, and with that comes unity. Okay, so here, how old is our universe or our galaxy, our world? Okay, maybe 4.8 billion years old, and that could be a loose figure. Okay, but earlier on, we had single-celled organisms, and call them initially prokaryotic, and as far as the fossil records goes, 3.5 billion years ago, it was something called archaea, which is ancient bacteria or pre-bacteria. Okay? And that they could only reproduce by cell division, and genes weren't present yet. However, and here's the thing where science can agree or disagree, or basically nobody knows, is that our existence back when no people and technically no living things had to pass on information to grow. How do you do that? Initially, it was a cell division, within the pond or within the puddle or within the dirt of the earth. Okay, but how do you get that knowledge to go global, to go worldwide? Okay, what was created was something called genes. And that got passed on horizontally as the world evolved, because now, there's no name structures, but say if you live in Texas, where Patrick lives, and you wanted to have messages go out to people in the Middle East or Iceland or places like that. How do you get those genes over there? You instruct them on what the stressors are that's going on, and then they're passed on horizontally to the next organism, to the next organism. Because in current day time, look at what we have here. 7.8 billion people. We all look alike. We all think alike. We all live in different places. And we all have different beliefs as far as religion and politics and culture and family, love and marriage, things like that. But inside of us, we're all the same. Physically, we're all the same. And then we have different thoughts and all that. And our genes are about the same. And because of of science, we can tell, a lot of times where people have come up from, where they've grown, where their ancestors are, what they like to eat, and based on that. And so anyway, here's some just statistics here. With we thought that way back when there were 280,000 genes because we're in people because we're so smart and intelligent and the top predator and it's all garbage like that. And what we found is that we have 20,000 genes. That's it, 20,000. That's what the Human Genome Project came up with, 20,000 genes. Okay, and so for perspective, the fruit fly has 13,000 genes. A flea has 30,000 genes. So figure that out. We're right in the middle there. But why are we so complex? Why can we do so many things? Why can we imagine? Why can we create? Okay, because those genes hold a lot of secrets that we're still learning about. So out of our entire gene sequences here, the 20,000, you have 99.8% of that is dealing with other things. So very, very little with the genome. So knowledge is held in there, but it's more than just our genes. There's an energy around us. Okay, so for more perspective, that we have parasites inside of us, and we have 300,000 different species of parasites inside of it, and that encompasses 2 billion type of genes. Okay, so the more microscopic is becoming more part of it. So we're less human than anything else. Okay, fungus. And first fungus was discovered about 1.5 billion years ago, fungus, mushrooms. And they had this thing called mycelium, which they're technically roots, but what they are, and then sometimes these roots go for, miles. And what happens with the mycelium is that instead of this mushroom, this fungus having their stomachs inside of us, inside of them, and like we have stuff inside of us, they have their stomachs outside in the open, and with this mycelium that extract nutrients from the earth, digest them, and send those nutrients, to that mushroom form that we see. But anyway, there are 5 million different species of fungus out there, and also in your body, right? And which means that translates into 125 trillion different genes. So trillions of genes in fungus, millions of genes in parasites, and bacteria. You've got 2 million different genes, and so you are more non-human than human. And so where does that bring us? It brings us here because what has happened, the evolution and this cross communication with all the different kingdoms out there, is that we were meant to self-heal. We were meant to
sorry about that.
Find whatever illnesses, diseases out there, to confront them, to memorize them, and to defeat them. That's why our species is still here. Okay, nothing to do with vaccinations and drugs and things like that, because if we needed medications, it would come from the earth, would come from the plants and the flora out there. Okay, and as far as viruses go, we have in us 100 trillion different type of viruses, many of them unknown. But back when in the fossil records, when bacteria were first created after the archaea, was something called bacteriophages. That's another name for viruses. Okay, and what are viruses? They're protein sacs with RNA or DNA in them. Okay, technically not alive, because they don't produce energy and they don't consume energy, but they convey information from what is outside in the world to our inside, and vice versa. And right now, you have in you uh, estimated 10 to the 15th power, or 15 zeros, of different viruses in your body. And one of them is corona. And that's been known for a lot of years. So for balance, okay, for a healthy living, okay, it is not the lone microbe that comes to upset the balance, which happened, in the course of history, and especially, uh, I guess recently, when the white Christian males came over from Europe to colonize the United States. Okay, they brought with them smallpox and syphilis. And then that begs the question, okay, what's all these Christian guys coming over with syphilis from? So where'd they get that, right? And we can do another show on that. But anyway, what happens is that, yes, the native population got sick. Many of them died. Many of them didn't. Many of them recovered. You know why? We have an immune system that is meant to learn. We have genes that are meant to learn. And that's why, please find this very promising, because this 2021 year is going to be your best year ever if you decide it to be so. And what you perceive will let you know, because your perceptions of life is how you view life, and a lot of times what your identity is. Okay, and then so I think might be time to take a step back to look at the facts and see where you want to go, because everyone, our species was meant to not only survive, but to thrive and proliferate. Okay, and so we can do that. We have to start individually, of course, but we have to want to change our perceptions about life in general, and to become part of that energy, to become part of that life. And I say that's well, if you use that God term, or that energetic term, God, well, another name for that is love. And then once we become part of that, life will change, and change for the better. And there will be no more of these of a 2020 year. Okay, that's outside influences, and I believe rife with greed, want for power, and want for depopulation and total control of the population. And we weren't meant to be controlled; we were meant to grow. Okay, so Patrick, you've got a lot of ideas on perception, and how your life went before the Enlightenment. What can we do to use this knowledge, especially just the fossil records that shows our genetics are constantly growing and adapting, and that stresses allows us to become better. It creates good mutations and allows us to live healthier lives. What do we have to do?
That's a good question. I mean, one of the things that comes to mind is always the research done by Dr. Emoto, and that was with regards to the water crystals. And it was a demonstration of how harmony, harmony, love, positivity affects things on a vibrational level, and creates, with regards to the water crystals, beautiful harmonic shapes. Whereas in his research, negative influences, be that negative words, negative music, negative labels, would create distortions in these water crystals. So you have this external influence that happens on a molecular level, and this external influence is one that we cannot see, but it is one that is there. It's omnipresent. It's the energetic environment that is coming first before the physical manifestation of that energetic environment. I'm a big believer in spirit over mind, mind over matter. And I believe ultimately it is these non-physical frequency-based energies which promote and sustain us on these evolutionary tracks, or they destroy us if it isn't present, or if the energy is somehow negative and under a negative influence. So I think, for the most part, when it comes to a creation, such as the creation we are experiencing right now and everything that entails. Everything that we are witnessing and experiencing on one level begun its life as a quantum wave. And then from there, we have the manifestation of the physical. And when you are talking about cells, genes, viruses, all of these things are a consequence of that invisible force. And you could even call it, you could give it Star Wars like references, such as the Force or whatnot. It basically describes the same thing. So I think that had a lot to do with the evolution of us as entities, as biological vehicles for the exploration of consciousness as we are. When one of the things we all have in common, and I'm sure this is in common right down to the cellular level, probably even the particle level, is awareness. There's awareness, which seems to be an independent function than the genes, the genetics, the program that we have. There's some level of observer. We actually had a conversation about this the other night, Dr. Randall, where I said, it's almost like a law of observation that awareness becomes self-awareness, and then it kind of seeks to find itself. So you could kind of see, and this is a little bit besides the point, but you could kind of see that influence on perception and awareness being primal almost to everything that exists. Without observation, without awareness, what would any of this be? It would literally be nothing. And I'm sure that awareness is integral, right down to the smallest of particles, like I had mentioned. All right, so if you've got, and we hear the God figure being referred to as infinite intelligence, infinite awareness, and things such as that, and then assuming that this entity and its vibrations are some form of subtle energies and things that we cannot perceive, because our sensory organs, as they have evolved, at least in this biological vehicle, is locked into a very small range of the electromagnetic spectrum, like 0.005% of known of visible light, which is 0.005% of known energy. And so we've got this very teeny tiny range in which we are perceiving things. So there's a lot that we don't see. There's a lot we don't experience. There's a lot that's going on around us, and I'm sure this is integral to all living things. And is there really a distinct blur between living and non-living, or is that perception itself? Because who's to say that these things that are fundamentally driven by quantum energies aren't all living? We're only applying our perception of what is living and what is not based on our own limited experience as humans and how we look at the world from our sensory organs, and what we hear, what we see, what we think is real, what we think is not real. At the end of the day, none of that might even be true. And Dr. Randall, if I'm kind of deviating a little bit away from your original question, please, you could always pull me back in. No. But I think that
you're doing great.
Our mind has dominance now over our entire molecular structure. You can see physically when people are, I guess I would say, have a very negative disposition. You see it affecting them on a physical level. They are ill. They are physically, they do not look well. They become a representation of the distortion that is going on within their minds. So this is affecting this level of thinking, our perceptions, all of that is affecting us on a molecular level. And then I'm sure that of course has a chain reaction to affecting our entire cellular makeup, right down to our genes, and perhaps even distorting our own genetic makeup. And because as the dominating force being the mental world, and it having precedence over the physical one, that's very easy to happen. So you would have sickness, you would have ill health, you would have this, you would have all sorts of negative things happening in a cellular molecular level. So these two things had to evolve hand in hand. There had to be some form of infinite intelligence, harmonically aligned vibrationally with evolution, because otherwise things would de-evolve, wouldn't they? They wouldn't necessarily evolve if there was too much distortion with that energy. So you have a very interesting system that has come, that's evolved over the course of time. And of course, time is a relative concept. Time is, it's something way in which we perceive and organize experiences in our life. It's a number that represents something, but in the scheme of all time, millions of years or billions of years is like a grain of sand on a beach. There's just so much, and there's so much that's gone on, and there's so much that we don't know, and there's so much that we do know. So that's my very long, drawn out, complex answer to what I think, how perception is integral to our own genetic advancement and the ability to sustain that genetic evolution would be dependent on our perceptions and and also the way the frequencies with which our common thinking patterns are associative. Now you go back to primitive entities, and there isn't obviously going to be a whole lot of complex thought there. I had the consciousness of a fish is going to be far different than the consciousness of a human, and what they see and experience is also going to be far different. So they might not have all of those ranges of behavioral patterns that they can experience at a time per the restrictions given to them as an entity known as a fish. A fish might not have a fit of rage like a toddler would. Am I right? So it's a very simple game in that regards. The fish moves around, it eats, it's optimized for its own survival. It's thinking, so far as we know, we don't know. Its thinking might be limited in that range and the things that it can perceive and the way that it goes about its business. But for the most part, it's got self-preservation in mind, which is built into us for a reason. If it wasn't, then everything would come crashing down. There wouldn't be any creation to sustain itself. Everything would go the opposite direction. So it's a very clear case of these energies having an impact on the way that we've evolved cellularly, molecularly, and how we've become to be these standalone entities that are able to observe, move, talk, interact, pass information. And that goes right down into the like microbes, and just like in the root system with trees in the forest, who are exchanging information by exchanging these microbes with each other and for nutrients, for this and for that. And that's why we have such an awesome, if we allow the forests to grow, we have such awesome, massive, healthy forests that happen. Let's ignore pollution for a second, which distorts all of that energy. And nature is a force to be reckoned with. You can throw, like we were talking about lazy gardening the other day. You can throw pieces of chop off a romaine lettuce head, toss it in the ground, and watch the miracle happen, where it starts to get what it needs, exchanging microbes with other root systems in there, growing roots, exchanging information, growing into a new head of lettuce. All of this is a harmonious interaction with the ground, the microbes, everything working synergistically to provide this growth, and I think physically and energetically. Okay. That's that. I could probably go off in 15 different tangents from here, and I'm going to go ahead and.
No, that's why I know you wanted to keep the show to 40 minutes and less. Of course, we can talk for 4 hours and more because there's so much to talk about. But what you bring up is so vital and so important, because I kind of look at our micro world, and what you've described is that can be affected by how we think and how we feel and what our perceptions are. Because when we look at the just genetic horizontal transfer of information, think about you may not have known your great grandparents or the parents that came before that, or the Herbert lineage that it might be thousands and thousands of years old, and probably emanating from that plot of land that we call Italy now, but back when it was just a plot of land. And then so you have, what the magic and the miracle is, that you have those genes from those ancestors that you don't even know, that go back thousands and thousands of years. That's amazing. But you have those same genes, but they've all been, the word mutated is not really a great word, but it's been changed over time with all the stresses that have gone on back when with the ice age, really, really cold, really, really hot, no food, all the volcanic eruptions, all the uh, astral bodies slamming into Earth, all the water at the time, some becoming salt water, some becoming fresh water. So the stress is there. And so what that does is that it changes our genetic base pairs, and there's four of them, right? The AGCT. And so we adapt and we become stronger from that. And we've gained information because that now it becomes smarter. And that's passed on and on and on. And so we have the same number of genes now, 20,000, that we've kind of discovered through the Human Genome Project, that our ancestors had way back when. And, that there's all these different views on, what human strain became us, but eventually Homo erectus became Homo sapien and Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon, and to us. And so perception, how we think, helps us adapt, and way beyond the Darwinian, theory and all that. And even he back when said, "This is what I think happens, but I just don't know." But what he did was to visit different areas of our world, and when he got to the Galapagos, he's just amazed to say, "Oh gosh, that there are, some creatures I recognize, but what I never knew an iguana to dive to the bottom of the ocean to forage for food. That doesn't happen, except here." And this iguana has the same amount of genes, but it has a different perception of life. It views life in a different way, and it's still a reptile, technically cold-blooded, but it dives into the water and goes down very deep to eat, the vegetation down there. And so, bringing us to current here, when we're under stress, okay, when we've got a fight or flight system, we can either, stay and fight, we can run away, or, we can freeze and do nothing. But just so you know, every time we take a stand and we fight and we move forward, we get a dopamine rush. So we teach ourselves, to move forward, and we teach ourselves how to be courageous. We teach ourselves that we can have courage if we move forward. If we make fear our friend, don't run from it, but run toward it. And let's get current here in our current situation is that stress is good because stress helps us grow. Right now, and especially the 2020 year, a lot of stress, okay? And then we were depending on an outside force, which is the government, to come save us. But like I said, with our human species, we have our own agendas. And Patrick, you can speak to that because you know a lot about that with what's going on out here. But a lot of those forces out there, and there's about less than 1% of our 7.8 billion out there that are really controlling the narrative, controlling our perceptions. Okay, and right now, because of that, we're living in fear, and we're taking orders from people that's against the natural laws, that are against our genetics. And this is what I want to try to get out to people here, is that fear makes us better, stress makes us better, but not to run from it, but to run toward it, to make us improve and see how we can live. Because without stress, we would all be dead. Without viruses in us, we would all be dead. With all the bacteria that people are so afraid of, with all this antibacterial soap, things like that, we would be dead. We are more non-human than we are human. And a lot of it is based on perceptions. And with all those microbes that are also perceiving, they can perceive fear. They can perceive something that might kill them. They can perceive happiness. They can perceive energy that is beneficial to the organism, not only to their own bacterial culture, but to the other organisms in there, like the fungus, like the viruses, like the parasites, like the yeasts, like the mold, which is all inside of you. So no matter how clean you think you are, you've got all these little critters in you, okay, and they work harmoniously, like in a community, like in a neighborhood. They work together for the great and flowing operation of the unit, the entity, which is us. But anyway, Patrick, jump in here because you got great ideas on perception, and especially with your enlightenment, uh, uh, I don't know, truth has opened up to you, and you're standing on this concept, which is the only concept called unconditional love, that actually uh, can not only influence and mold your genes, but that same energy that can be passed on to future generations.
Mhm.
So why don't you speak to that?
That, and also I wanted to pull up the effects with regards to energy in plants. You've
Yeah.
often heard, the story of the farmers that talk to their plants and they grow more efficient, or ones that are nasty. And even a plant has some sort of very incredible perceptual range, because in some studies, and I wish I had these accessible to me right now, but they just popped in mind. In some studies, plants would know when their neighbors were being cut down, and their growth patterns would be distorted from that. So there is an energy. There's definitely an energy that is the energy that we cannot see, makes up for a lot of things that we are experiencing, I believe, fully. And so and because of that, we tend to just focus on the things that we can see, and we kind of neglect that aspect, which is, I think, it's the founding aspect of our experiences, is the energy. So the energy is the most important. I might be a little, I think I need you to ask me the question again, because I got a little distracted myself.
No, no, not, no, no. I think because I love our conversations because they're all synchronistic, and because you brought up these plant studies, and I was just reading studies on plants.
Mm-hmm.
This was just yesterday, and and how they feel and they give off energy. Because then this one researcher in Europe, she did an experiment with plants and different types of music, modern
Mm-hmm.
music, classical music, rap music, stuff like that. She goes, of all the different types of musics out there, is that plants responded well to classical music. A lot of them were stunted, even died when they got into the loud rap music.
That's just
So,
like the Dr. Emoto water crick. He did that with
yeah,
it was heavy metal music,
yes,
just a
that's
more
right.
negatively oriented music would cause distortion in the water crystals. And like I said, this goes back to the underlying system of reality, which is this energy, because you can, the classification of what we consider to be negative might encompass multiple genres of modern day music, perhaps. Of course, that's up to one's perception alone, but there is an actual expression of negative hate, anger, which has its own vibrations, and those, of course, are what the vibrational class, I guess you would say, that where all of those things are the physical subclasses. They're the physical manifestation of that negative energy, and that negative energy is what affects the water crystals, what affects the molecules, what affects the cells, what affects everything with regards to those plants. And then even the intent with that music is in that energy. The intent of the creators, it's all there, and it never goes away. That's just how energy works. Energy never goes away. It just changes shape, it changes format, it's transferred, but it never goes away. So
No,
you've got the original intent, you've got the original, all of that stuff, which is in that packet of information, energetic information, which is going there. And then you have the classical music, where you've got positive intent, beautiful thing, beauty, harmony, even the frequency that the instruments are operating at, or how they have been recorded, is important. They can, by and large, take a recording and change the overall frequency of the recording, and make it in a more more of a disharmonious frequency, and that will affect the entire arrangement of of music and energy as it goes out. So, but for the most part, the classical music was recorded with the intent of beautiful harmony, very moving and emotional, rich emotions that were expressed by the musician. And it's easy to understand that using the same principles, where all that beautiful intent and then the harmony is within that energetic makeup of that music. So the energy always comes first, and then the manifestation of that energy are the things that we experience on a quote unquote physical level. Because if you ask me, I believe that things are not actually, I think that this is all mind personally. I think that it is all energy, and that what we perceive to be as real and physical is not. And I think that's just something like similar to software programs running, where a software program is running on some level that's telling me that this desk I'm sitting at is solid. Therefore, my experience of this desk is going to be of a solid energy. But per my own supernatural experiences, I know that physical life is entirely malleable and can change. And I've seen some very specific, fantastic things happening when I went through my awakening that really solidified that concept, such as huge synchronicities, seeing some negative symbols manifest from clouds in the sky, one of them being the exact shape of the eye of Ra. So if you've got the clouds that are flowing through there and they have that capability, then that is the code behind that, which you could call the energy being the code, which if you change the energy, just like you change the code, you're changing the physical appearance of something. In a software program, if I'm changing the code that represents a 3D structure, I'm going to change the manifestation of that 3D structure. Or as David Icke puts it really well, if you have a website and you change the code of the website, then what you see as the website will be different. And I think that's how reality works on the reality that we experience. So that kind of, it's interesting because when you have experiences like that, it changes everything that you've ever been taught and everything that you've ever, what you were raised to believe. It challenges all of your belief systems, but in such an impactful way that you don't, it's such a huge way that, for one, nobody's going to believe you unless they've been through the same stuff. But two, it gives you a totally different perception on what life is and what this reality is that we're experiencing. And there are some stuff in quantum sciences and such, quantum theory, the double slit experiment, things that show that particles begin their life as a waveform. Everything begins its life as a quantum wave. Per an observer, the waveform collapses and a particle is created. So that particle is what we will assume to mean a physical manifestation of something. But that physical manifestation of something is coming from something that is non-physical. That's just a frequency-based beginning of life. That's a kind of a bad analogy to use, but it's beginning its existence in a non-physical way. So that non-physical way could be what we call the programming of reality. Yeah.
Beautifully said. Yeah.
So that's what we're dealing with, and of course these create so many different perceptions of what life is. There's the two dominating theories right now are those two, is that there's just the Darwinian approach to everything in evolution, and that it all came from random interaction. And then there's the energetic approach, the quantum energy approach, the quantum theory approach to life, where things begin their life as everything begins its life as a quantum wave, and then it manifests into the physical and whatnot. So, and those are two competing ideologies right now, because you have that understanding of non-physical manifestation of the physical, and then you have the understanding that things are just physical and that physical is all there is. So yeah, that's my, and if you hear a lot of chaos going on behind me, it's because they're doing some roof work right now. That is, I don't know can you pick it up on the microphone?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Everything's going boom, boom, boom around me. So
not too interested in what you're saying, because like I said, that you told me prior to us getting on air here that you kind of know what you know, and it's And I was telling you is that, you know a lot more science, medicine, and nutrition than you think you do, and more so than your average medical doctor out there,
Thank you,
because
Doctor. I appreciate
they're not
that.
trained that way, and then they're ill-trained in virology and immunology because relatively new fields, and like in anything, there's a lot of cheating involved there and a lot of misinformation. So a lot of our current knowledge is based on misinformation, and the uh, let's lead up to our current thing here with the presidential election, and all this violence going on at the White House, and you've got the leader of the Western world just moot on safety, moot on nonviolence, uh, just uh, acting like himself, which is a petulant child. Well, the election didn't go his way, and so he's acting in a certain way. And yes, the election was rigged. So everyone out there, yes, it was rigged. Okay, and so we have, as a human society, a lot to do. But based on perception, look what's going on, and based on how people want to, akin their vibrations. Some are pissed, some are joyous. Okay, and all of it stressful, and now leading to violence. And this is our world, and inclusive in that world is this vaccine thing, a chemical cure, for something that's never been proven, where our bodies, we were gifted with this energy, this gift called the immune system, that over our millennia of why our human species is still here, and then we weren't wiped out way back when, is that our genes learned, and they grew, and they figured out how to protect us with all those, just hundreds of years, thousands of years of different microbes, different illnesses, different diseases that, just overcame our ancestors and all that. They learned from that. Some died, many didn't. And that's why we're here today. And when we look at how we want to take control of ourselves, well, we have the genetic tools to do that. Okay. And then we are strong and healthy and self-healing, because of that. And nothing to do with vaccines or, the over-the-counter Advil kind of things like that. Those stuff are helpful, but for millennia, our ancestors used plant-based medicines out there, healthy eating, physical exercise or movement every day, and what your foundation is, Patrick, just love. Love, for the family, but for the tribe next door, for the clan that's new, for the person needing help, for that person that needs socialization or food or company, or just love to be included, to know that they're included. And when you look at the blue zones out there in the world, why do they live so long? Okay, they live simply. That they eat what they're supposed to eat, which comes from the earth. Okay, they accept one another because there are assholes everywhere. There are not so much fun people everywhere, but in those kind of blue zone societies, they accept each other. They love them the way they are. Okay, and let's come current here to our situation with 2020 and this microbe that they called Corona. Well, Corona is a family of viruses that have been known for many decades, and all of a sudden, some of the powers that be decided to turn that into a weapon, and now we're all afraid and scared. Look what happens when we're afraid and scared. Look what has happened in just the election of presidents, and the amount of power that they have. Okay, and it is a human condition. Okay, but ones our genetics are meant for not only survival but for thriving for our species. Because if you want to go extinct, we will. Okay, but not all of us will. Okay, and And then from there, whoever survives will have these same kind of genetics. And it is our perception of life, and it's all vibratory. And this starts down from your smallest of things at the atomic level, electrons, protons, neutrons, neutrinos, and all that. How do they know what to do? How do they know where to go? And how do they know that we're alive? And then multiplying that way in our bigger counterpart is those things end up becoming part of cells and becoming part of who we are. And I said, I will contend that you cut open any human on earth and their blood will be red. And that's the way it is. Okay. And we're all built the same. We're slightly different on the outside, but we're built the same. So we get that from genetics. And a lot of that is perception. And a lot of times the perception of these tiny, tiny microbe entities there. And we were meant to live. We were meant to thrive. And when you look at that small invisible world, that microscopic world, we're all the same. Whether we're here, I'm up in the state of Washington, you're in Texas. The guy that runs Pyramid One Network, Bob Charles, he's in Florida. And but Pyramid One is also in Texas also, and as well as Australia. And so geographically, we're everywhere. And geographically, genes can horizontally transfer to entities, people, things that we don't even know, that we have never met, but it gets done. And that's energy, that's frequency. And so, our current situation here with in 2021 and the change in presidents and all that, a lot of things there, a lot of human things, a lot of deception, a lot of lies, just a lot of cheating. Okay. And when you say, well, who's best to run our country, Trump or Biden? Well, they're both crooks. Okay. And so, which tells me that we need to start doing the right thing. We need to listen to our own genetics. We need to start, well, like you were saying, Patrick, it's the type of vibrations that you send out there and that you listen to. When they harmonize, we end up doing the right things. Okay, and if you remember Gandhi way back when, he was trained as a lawyer, but what he did was to get those people together. Someone was suing someone else, and you get those two folks together and say, "Hey, look, let's not go to court. Let's work this out. Let's do the right thing." Okay, if you cheated this person, then it's time to admit it and pay this person back and things like that. And so rarely did he take things to court. He everything got settled with him out of court. And the same thing how he got in India to become a free country again. With his nonviolent attitude, he talked to all of his people in India, and they resisted. They resisted nonviolently, and the British left. And everyone, this is what we need to do too, because we have those same genes, and we have to be in that energy zone, that love energy zone. Okay, because one, that makes us smarter, which we're supposed to be anyway. Okay, and that makes us inclusive. We can stop this right now because we don't need vaccines. We have our own immune system in our bodies to save us. Okay, and we have to go back to that because we already know what to do, and love is how you do it. And like I said, not a woo-woo stuff. It's a very good business concept, a very good family concept, a very great way to live. Okay? And I think
you also, when you live your life that way, you have no worries. You don't have any concern. You have in your life to contend with yourself for the most part. And if you conduct yourself without a moral compass, the person at the end of the day that suffers from that will be, well, whoever you hurt, number one, and number two, yourself. And that won't ever leave you. If you will have a guilty conscience, which will haunt you for the rest of your life. I when I had made all of the necessary changes following my awakening to conduct myself in honorable ways with a much more firm moral compass, I go to bed very peacefully every night. I don't have a worry or a concern about, I will, when I reflect, I will, I will reflect on the events of the days, and so so long as there's nothing that might be making me feel guilty, I will be able to have a very very peaceful evening. Dr. Randall, I wanted to point it out that we did go over time a little bit, so if you wanted to wrap things up over here,
Oh, no,
I keep getting phone
no, thank you.
calls,
Looks like
so
I could talk to you for hours and hours, but everyone, thank you so much. And, if you like what you've heard here, please subscribe, to the channel and tell your friends, okay? Because we're making a difference, a bigger difference, and we're going to be louder and give you more content. But let's make a difference, and we can only do that with you on board.
cool. Well, thanks everybody. I appreciate it very much. And we will see you in our next episode. Thank you so much.
Take care.